I came back to this like 3 or 4 times, and then in my head I'm like, oh, what if he was glowing? And I'm like, how can I make that happen? So you can see someone's face. Nothing else matters as much.
Is this all the same person, or is it multiple?
Yeah, that's all him. Well, that's a lot of roto. Yeah.
CinePacks.
What is up, and welcome to the CinePacks Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Casey, and I'm with my co-host, Andy Chin.
And today we have Oswaldo Cepeda. Is that how you say it?
There you go. You got it right.
Sick. But you might know him as Moody Dark Room on Instagram and and I think also YouTube.
Yeah, every social.
Every social. And you've definitely seen his work online. His photography and video work now has been, I feel like it's been inspiring people. Like, people have been copying your work, right? So it's all over the place.
It's all over Pinterest.
Pinterest is crazy.
So yeah, welcome to the show, dude. Thanks for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. Also, which camera should I be looking at?
And you could look at us.
Okay,
you could
cool,
look at
cool.
that is your camera over there, though.
Sick.
That's you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably be looking at you guys, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you want to talk to the audience, that's right there.
Yeah. Sick. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I definitely want to start from the beginning. Like, how did you get your intro? I know a little bit about your background, but I mean, for the audience that don't know, like, how did you get into this, like the photography?
Yeah.
And, like,
so I have only been doing any type of creative work since COVID. So COVID was like the big point in my life where I kind of transitioned over. I was doing personal training before, so I was a personal trainer. And as a personal trainer, you work like stupid hours. And I've always wanted to do creative stuff, but when you're working like 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. with like a weird break in the middle, you never have any time to actually do any like personal creative work. So I was like, all right, I'm not ever going to have a chance to do anything. So I'll just kind of give up on that. But then COVID happened. And I was like, oh, I get like 2 weeks to kind of just, mess around and do whatever I want before I have to go to work. And then those 2 weeks turn into like a month, and you guys know how that went. Yeah. So I had a camera at the time. I got it as like a gift for my high school graduation, and it was like an A6000, and it just had the kit lens on it. So I was just messing around with that, and then I was like researched how to make like your photos better and stuff, and I like figured out like, okay, you need like a high aperture to get that separation. You need stuff like that. So I bought like, I think it was like one of the Sigma lenses, and then started playing around with that, and then I really liked it. And at the time, I downloaded TikTok, and TikTok, they were doing like at home photo shoot challenge, and where they were using like a paper roll as like a spotlight, or like, little silly stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's fun. Let's do that. So me and my girlfriend were doing that in my room, and then I like really liked it, and I like wanted to start doing more of that. I liked how the darker kind of photography looked. I wasn't like the biggest fan of like the super highly retouched, like super vibrant type of photography that was like popular at the time. So I was like, how can I do photography without having to do that? So I kind of like, I had like Philip Hue knockoffs from Amazon, and I like played around with like colored lighting, and I was like, oh, I really, really like this look, except it's like not bright at all, and like I have to like boost the ISO to crazy levels, and it just didn't look that good. But that like kind of started teaching me how to, how light works and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, I really like doing this as like a hobby. And my friend had moved to California the year before, and he's like, oh, we're moving. He was in San Diego. He's like, we're moving into a new house, and there's a spare room if you want to like come out here. If you like it, you can stay. If you don't like it, you can always move back. I was like, hell yeah, let's do that. Because rent was like super, super cheap because it was like a COVID deal. Mm-hmm. So I moved out to San Diego in 2020. And when I got there, I was like, okay, I can kind of do like other work until I can get photography off the ground. So from June, I moved in June 4th. From June to December, I was doing like Instacart to pay all my bills. And then any spare time I had, I was like setting up shoots with like people that I knew. Luckily, I like met some photographers right away, and they introduced me to like people I could shoot with. And we had a garage at the house that I was living in, so I just turned it into like a little studio garage. And it honestly kind of went hard. Like I painted the walls black. I was like, yeah, this is like low-key kind of hard. And so I was doing a bunch of stuff in the garage, and then that's when I like started doing like YouTube videos. And when like I think like 2 months in, the first like brand ever, like I forgot what their name was now, but they reached out. They're like, hey, we saw your YouTube video. Would you like some lights? I was like, hell yeah, I would love some lights, because I still using the little shitty ones. Nice. And then they're like, yeah, we'll send you a light. And then they sent me a light, and I started using that. And then after that, like more and more brands kind of started sending me things. So I like was slowly getting better lighting. So I was kind of able to learn a little bit more as I went. And then around December was when I had like a really bad Instacart like thing where they like said I didn't deliver the delivery, and like I had to like call in Instacart, send photos to prove it. And then I ended up like not getting paid for that, and it took like 2 hours. I was like, all right,
Damn.
I don't want to ever do this ever again. So then I was like, okay, starting next year, I'm only going to live off of my photography. So then I started like posting that I'm available for hire, I'm available for this. I started like bombarding it everywhere, and people actually started hiring me, which is cool. It wasn't like a ton of money at first because I was like, I don't know how much to charge, you know, like, what do photographers charge? And also during COVID, like no one was working, so it's like kind of feel bad making people pay a lot. So I just started doing that, and then word of mouth kind of got around, and then that's also around the same time that my photography started to like go a little bit, I don't want to say viral, but like more account, like feature accounts and stuff were reposting a lot of my work. So I was getting like a bunch more followers, and ever, you know, once you get more following, people are like, oh, like this guy's like cool now. Once you get over 10K, you're like, oh, this guy's cool.
Or you get like credibility.
Exactly.
Like, oh,
so
like
once I got past 10K, it was like, oh yeah, I'll pay that. I'll pay that to hire you. Because before then it was kind of like, we'll let you know. We'll let you know. But after the 10K, they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to shoot with you. Or like people reaching out to me now instead of me having to reach out to them to shoot. And then that kind of went on all through 2021. And then as I started getting more like following, people from like LA started reaching out to hire me. So I was driving up back and forth. And during COVID, the drive was only like an hour 20. So it wasn't like terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like people say that the traffic's so bad. Like it's not even that bad. Forgetting that it's like COVID. And then, you know, COVID slowly ended and the traffic went from like 1 hour 20 to like close to like 3.5. So I was like, okay, I'm driving up 2-3 times a week, spending all this money on gas, spending all my time, like renting out Airbnbs and stuff. I might as well just like make the move. So around like November or October or something like that in 2021, I moved up to LA. And then in LA, being out here, it was kind of like probably the second biggest change, because in San Diego it was cool, but then in LA now I had like a lot more flexibility to like work with people, because before it was like, oh, I live in LA or I live in San Diego, you either have to drive to me or I have to drive up, and it's like sometimes scheduling didn't work out. But then being in LA, I could network with a lot more people in the area. That's kind of like how I met you guys and stuff. And then two, it's just like, because COVID was lifted, like more creativity kind of, you know, there was a big uprising in creativity stuff. And after that, I kind of kept on grinding and got a bigger following, and, you know, more and more bigger names started reaching out to hire me and stuff. And that's kind of, from there, I just kind of slowly just kept scaling. But
I feel like the scaling was really fast too, though, right? Because you picked up the camera. I feel like because when I first met you, you were living in San Diego, and like I forgot how much you had, like, I don't know. It wasn't the amount of followers you have now. Like you definitely, like, it went. And I remember you were telling me like, oh, I just started this like however many months ago or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, what? Like your stuff like
was that definitely the grandma's house shoot?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It was
like greenhouse. Yeah, it was back when it was greenhouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like how did you, so after like those first accounts started reposting you, like did you kind of figure out like a formula, or like how did you get, was that generally how like the following grew, or like was there a specific thing that you did for that?
Yeah, so I've always been like very analytical about like how things work, and at the time I was just kind of like watching, you know, there's like all those like social media gurus, so you got to take what they say with like a grain of salt, but I was watching like all of them, and from all of them I was like, okay, this is the one thing that all of them said. So I went and like tried it, and then if it worked, I kept on doing it. If it didn't work, I like would stop doing it. And at the time, it was when like hashtags were still working, and so I would find like the hashtags within like the niche that I was trying to target, which was like portrait photography, creative photography. And then I was also like feature pages at the time were like a really big thing, where like if you got your work on there, like a lot of people saw it, and then they would reach out and try and hire you and stuff like that. So I was always trying to get on those. And then also just like posting consistently at the time also worked. Obviously things change over time, so what worked then doesn't work now. But I was trying to post at least like once a day back then. Okay. So it was like once a day on Instagram, Instagram, Twitter, Visco, and then at the time Tumblr too. Like anyone that, any platform that was like photo based, I was like, I'm gonna at least get my work on there, because then it's like also my work's on every single platform, not just on one. So I'm opening up the pool of like who can find my work. And then TikTok at the time, I wasn't really too big into it, and then I kind of slowly started getting more and more into it. And then that's when I realized like, okay, TikTok is like huge, because at the time it was still kind of like that weird transitional period where I'm like, it's like a kid's app, like am I gonna take it serious? But then like I met some people who like I found really good success on it. They're like, oh, you should get on it. I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And then I started posting on TikTok, and then like one of my videos like did really good, and then from there I noticed that I got a lot of followers on TikTok from that one video, but because I had my Instagram linked, they would then go on Instagram and follow me. So it wasn't as many, but it was like a good boost. And I would see every time I got like a viral video, I would see a big boost on Instagram. So I started like pushing TikTok a lot more, but I never like directly cross promoted Instagram because I was like, I want there to still be a separation with the two followings, just to increase total amount of like people.
Like it's not the same content.
Exactly. It's not the exact same people either. So then, but some of them would go and find my Instagram and stuff, or they'd like follow me on TikTok, and then later they'd like find one of my photos on Instagram and be like, oh, I followed your TikTok. Like, I can't believe I found you here. Or like same thing with Twitter. They'd be like, oh, I follow you on Instagram. Like, I can't believe I found you here. Like following you on here now too. And I was like, oh, cool. But yeah, it was kind of just like posting every single day, being really consistent with it. Like I was posting. I was literally, I don't think I missed in like 2 years. I like didn't miss posting.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
I've gone back and like cleaned up a lot of it and like the archive
just
stuff.
like the ones that don't even.
Yeah. But like, I was for like almost 2 years straight. I was like posting every single day.
It's interesting because I feel like I hear other people doing, our friend Adrian did that as a challenge himself, like to post one post a day for like a certain amount of time. He like grew his account to like 200K plus, like within like really fast. I don't even know. It's crazy.
It was quick. Yeah. What would you say is working now? Like, let's say you were in the position you were in the beginning, and like, let's say you had that same mindset, like listening to gurus and everything. What advice would you give to someone starting out now with the current state of social? Like, what do you feel like is working, or what do you see?
So I think it depends on the platform, but one of the things that I would have always been like super adamant about has been being on every single platform, because like with the whole TikTok ban, like say that was the only platform you were on, now like your livelihood is at stake, right? So it's like be on every single platform, and then everything's gonna be a little bit different on each platform. Like on Instagram now, if you're not doing reels, like people aren't really gonna see your stuff. So as annoying as like doing reels is for everyone, like if you have to do it if you're on Instagram.
Yeah.
TikTok, like they're always changing what type of content they want to push. So like now I think it's like long form over a minute, doing that type of content. YouTube's kind of been the one that's been consistent the most, but it's also takes the most effort. So it's a lot more like upfront expense effort for very minimum gain at first, because like you're not gonna just pop off on YouTube like you do on Instagram and TikTok. But YouTube's also where like all of my like initial brand deals came from. It wasn't Instagram or TikTok.
That's what I wanted to say, is what I noticed too. Like when I had when you started out on YouTube, how many subscribers did you have? Were you around like
800?
Yeah. And which is crazy though, because like, even if you have like 1,000 subscribers, brands will still reach out with like gear and whatnot. And just like, because if they really think about it, like even if it's like a micro influencer or something like that with 1,000, 5,000 even is a lot, like, because on YouTube, I feel like sales, what I've seen is sales convert the best. Like, I feel like people are either on their computers, so then they're watching this horizontal content and then like, oh, I'm going to scroll down. I trust this description. And then, and it's just been around for so long. I feel like it's a staple. So I don't know if you have the same experience, but that's what I've noticed is like, that's one of the reasons we were able to start CinePacks, is because I had somewhat of a YouTube following, and it just translated so well to the digital assets.
Yeah, I definitely think YouTube is the best way, like the best, I guess, platform for getting to work with brands. Like more brands will be willing to work with you if you don't have to have like a huge presence on YouTube. But YouTube's by far the smallest social that I have, but it's also still the one that gets me. One, not only just like brand stuff, but also like I sell presets. Like 99.9% of my preset sales come from YouTube. Because I can check like where they find their links, and it's people will click on them and view them from like the other places like Instagram and TikTok, but the conversion for YouTube is just like so much higher, because on YouTube I can show my actual whole process and then like plug them and be like, oh, by the way, this is how I edited these, or like stuff like that, which I feel like translates a lot more. And people that are on YouTube, they're kind of on YouTube to either like learn something or because they're genuinely invested in it. Yeah. Versus on TikTok or Instagram, it's kind of like, oh, cool.
Yeah, you kind of just have it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I'm at the store in the grocery line, like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to save this for later. And then yeah. But I think it's still important to be on those platforms, because they see it. But then let's say next week they're on YouTube and they're searching, oh yeah, I want to know how to get cinematic lighting with $5, you know, or whatever. You
Yeah.
know? But I feel like, yeah, when you're in all those different areas, I feel like that is a good strategy. But yeah, I think starting a YouTube, even just documenting or something along those lines, I feel like it is pretty valuable, especially if your goal is to get free gear, you know, if that's something you want to acquire. I mean, you know, it's not a bad thing to have.
I mean, these brand deals that you get through that, is it just free gear, or is it like do you make money off of that? Is that paying the bills as well? Or?
So a lot of them in the beginning were kind of just like, hey, we'll send you this for like review, and then you get to keep it, which I'm like, as someone that didn't have anything, I was like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of them will pay. Like they'll be like, oh, we'll send you this to review or whatever, and then you can also keep it, and then we'll license whatever content you make so that we can use on our website, or we can use on like, you know, to repurpose it for like our own stuff. Kind of like what's it called, like UGC. And so they'll like, they'll get a dedicated video from you, plus they'll also get content they can license to use on like their other platforms. So they get like a 2-in-1 basically, which if you like the brand, that's something that's, you know, I think everyone should be doing. What I don't advise is like doing that with brands you don't like, because now you're like tied to this brand and you're like, I did that thing, but.
Is that something you've experienced? Like just
no, I've only worked with brands that I genuinely liked, or like if a brand wants to send me like a light that I'm like, this is like not a good light. I was like,
would you just send it back and not make the review?
I would just be like, oh, I don't want to. Like I would like if it was like a because you know, like in the last like 2 years, every brand started making lights. There's like these random brands would be like, hey, we have this light, and it's just like a knockoff of like this other. And I was like, I'm good. I'm good on that.
Yeah, I like one that I've been sent lights as well, and they're like, hey, where's our video? And I'm just like, same thing. I'm just like, hey, like I don't want to like blow you guys up. Like I really don't like this, you know. Like being honest, but like one that I did get that I think I saw you do some shoots with was that it was like that telescoping light, the light,
the Dukin.
Yeah, the Dukin. That one was kind of sick. I like that one.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It was like, I think Suray is like the parent company.
Yeah.
No,
that was a cool one. Yeah, I feel like that was like a cool step up in like the handheld wand game. Like the telescoping was kind of sick, but yeah.
They still make those?
Yeah,
they still make them. Seen people out.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I feel like it kind of.
I don't know if they like rebranded or something. I don't know. It was like a weird like side project.
That is a cool idea. I think like having you can soften it. By
they drop like 4-foot ones too, like longer, like Astera size.
I have
you have the 4 foot.
Yeah, I have the 4-foot one too.
Yeah.
But
is that like, something you use often on your shoots or not? Really?
I use it more as like if all other options are expensive. Because I have like infinity bars. I have like all the aperture stuff. So I'm like.
It's like a run and gun kind of thing.
I'm like, if I want to put a light in danger, like I don't want to ruin my good lights.
It's like tape it to a car while you're driving.
Like Ori's over here. He said last episode, he said he's taping A7. He thinks A7S3s are expendable. Hey, we appreciate you listening to the CinePacks Podcast. We actually don't have any sponsors for this podcast. It's all self-funded. So if you want to support us, head on over to our website, buy some digital assets or a lens filter. We'd really appreciate it. Enjoy the podcast.
But okay, so aperture lights, is that kind of your go-to for like a lot of your setups?
Yeah. I only
while you're wearing a cream source competitor shirt.
No, I only use aperture and Amaran.
Yeah, Aperture needs to send this guy some shirts.
Dude, no, they send me all these lights and never any shirts. I'm like, all right, bro, I can't rep it if I don't have no shirts. No, but it's because like having just Sidus work with everything. Just because you know, like all the other brands have like their own light apps and stuff. They suck. They're like not good. So like I don't want to have to like switch apps every time I need to change. Like if I have like 4 Amaran lights and then like one random other light, and I have to swap apps just to, you know. So I'm like I'd rather just not do that. So
also they have that new Sidus One thing that can connect to other lights now too, other brands.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So at this point I'm using just all aperture and Amaran lights, and I don't have any issues with them. I love all my lights.
Is that and then I know a lot of photographers do like strobe lighting and stuff for their stills, but you just use video lights essentially for
because I also like I think a big thing today in today's day and age is like showing the process, and if you can kind of show what the final image is going to look like in the video, people will stick around to see what the photo looks like. Whereas like flash, it'll just look normal. Yeah. And, you know, so it's like if they see like a little sneak peek of it, they'll be like, oh wait, I want to see what that looks like.
So this is a marketing tactic that you pre-planned out.
Yeah, it is. And then also because I'm also doing like, you know, all this content, it's like now I can just run a video quick. I don't have to like
Yeah.
set up video
Sick.
lights. Like with this thing playing in the background now, if I were to do this on like a strobe, you wouldn't see anything.
Yeah.
It wouldn't look
Yeah.
cool until you like the strobe went off.
And the story on that, if you did like in like, let's say it's a TikTok or an Instagram, it would be like, wait around for the results
Yeah,
in 3, 2,
No
and
one
then
got time
like
for that.
yeah,
No one
nobody's got
cares.
time for
yeah,
that.
but if they're just swiping, they don't have to read the caption. They'll see already like what it looks like.
Yeah,
They're
like
oh,
you
it-
turning on the light, shaping it, doing some.
People love color, so they'll like see bright color, be like, oh, whoa, that's cool, and then
Yeah.
they'll notice that it's like photos afterwards.
and then
So-
you don't have to start with the result at the same time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it just makes it. It's also like a little marketing thing, but it's also just like easier because I do both photo
Yeah.
and video. So I'm just like,
What are some aperture lights that you would recommend for a beginning photographer / filmmaker to get? Like, let's say you were in your shoes, beginning of COVID, like now, just starting out. What are some of your go-to lights that you think are a pretty good tool to have?
So I think if I were to like restart and have to like build my gear back up, I think the first light I would get would be like the Amaran 60X
Oh yeah.
or 60D, whichever one I would use more. But they're like super cheap,
Super small.
like
too.
super small.
Lightweight.
I can literally throw them in my camera bag. Like they're so small. You can
Yeah.
run them on like NPF batteries. And for how small they are, they get pretty bright. And then you can use them for both photo and video. They have a Bones mount, which is super, flexible. And they're like really lightweight too. So you don't have to go buy like expensive stands. You can get like the little cheapy plastic ones, and
Yeah.
they won't like fall over. So that's definitely a light that I recommend the most to people. The only thing is it doesn't have like RGB, but if you don't use RGB, that's not a big problem. I am trying so hard to like convince Amaran to make a
RGB
color version of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
please, please
would
give
be
me an
nice.
RGB, because they don't have like the lowest power one they have is like a 150.
Yeah, the
but it's like way.
150C.
It's like
It's
double.
it's
the
a size of
like
300.
size.
Yeah,
it's way
so I'm
bigger.
like, it's a big difference there. So I'm like, if you can make a C version of this, I will.
And also, like that
vouch
one
for
kind of
it.
bangs up against the C stand with the little power brick thing too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a little clunkier. So if
Yeah.
I could get like a C version of the 60X, that would be
Gotcha.
the light that I recommend. But they also just released like their new Infinity tubes, or I don't know what they're called. Yeah,
Infinity bars, yeah.
Infinity bars. I think those are also really good too, because they come with like
Magnets and stuff.
yeah, they come with magnets, and they also come with like the new kits now. Like there's ways to mount them and stuff.
Yeah.
So where in the past they kind of didn't have that. Now they also have like the little like egg crate things to like condense the light a little bit more, to give you a little bit more like shape to it. So those are also a good option. But I think the 60X would be like if I had to restart with nothing, that would be like the first light I would get.
Nice.
I still use it to this day. I was using it on the set earlier today.
Nice.
Yeah, like it is a nice light.
What about camera wise? Like, is it what kind of gear do you use? On
So
that side?
I actually use all Sony gear. I use my main photo camera is my A7 III, which is like 6 years old now, but I just don't have a reason to upgrade because it takes really good photos still. I just think it was so ahead of its time when it came out.
Yeah.
That like it still holds up today. So that's my main photo camera, and then my video cameras I use an A7S III and then FX30, and then I also have a Lumix S5 because I did like a brand thing with them,
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
and I thought I wasn't gonna actually like it, but I actually ended up really liking it. Autofocus kind of sucks, so you have
Yeah.
to use like manual lenses on it, but the video like footage from it is really really good, and so is the photo because it uses the same sensor as A7 III. So it
yeah.
uses a Sony sensor, and then Lumix's color science is a little bit better than Sony's. So
Yeah. I
And
just
they're-
got the G7 over there. They sent that GH7.
Yeah.
mhm.
So it's micro four thirds, but the autofocus is finally fixed.
Is
And
it-
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
shoot open gate like the 5.7,
Yeah.
which is pretty sick. So I want to play around with that. And
Yeah.
it's got REC log.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like cameras ahead of their time. I had the GH5, and that camera was like I still use it
Dude,
today.
it
It's like
held up.
it had like 4K
Yeah.
60, like when nobody
in like
had
2016,
Yeah.
right?
that. Yeah, and then the A7S III didn't come out for a while, and
Yeah.
then they didn't drop anything. I was waiting. I was like, all right, Panasonic's gonna do something. They did nothing.
Yeah.
So then I switched to the A7S III.
Yeah, and
But-
then the new Lumix S5 too is also really nice.
Yeah.
So that would be, and they're really affordable too. I think
Yeah.
that's like bang for buck. Lumix is like on the come up for sure. Their lens options kind of suck still, but
Yeah.
they'll get better.
Yeah, for sure. That's why you have Sigma. Yeah.
Yeah,
They got
so-
their versions. but
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Besides gear, I feel like your style is actually really like it's like you can tell this is a photo from if you're scrolling Pinterest or whatever. You can tell what your style like. It's very iconic. I feel like very like it's like a staple of what you do. Like, is there I don't know specific inspirations or like I don't know like certain things that you do when you look for when you're like lighting a scene or taking photos and stuff.
Yeah. So as far as like inspiration comes, all of my inspiration comes from like music. So like I'll listen to like a song and then like be like, oh, I can like see a photo in my head. I'm like, I want to shoot this photo, but have the same like vibe as this song. In my head, it makes sense. I don't like doing mood boards. I like hate doing mood boards because I feel like I don't want other people's work to bleed into mine. I don't want to be like, oh, that's a cool idea. I want to copy it. I'm trying to like, I always try to start with like a blank slate and be like, what can I come up with that fits the vibe that I'm trying to go for? And then I'll kind of that's another reason I like using constant lighting is you can just instantly see if you like something or not. You don't have to like set it up, take a photo, look at it. Yeah. So I can like instantly see. And then as far as like the lighting and why it's always like a dark and moody type of look is that's just kind of like what I learned when I first had like the really dim lights and like I had to be very, very specific on what I wanted illuminated and what I didn't. And the things that I think were like the most important, which is like getting the eyes. If you can get the eyes lit up with like a little bit of a like a little twinkle, that's just gonna make the image look really nice. And also like the Rembrandt lighting. If I can get like those two and like a little backlight, like nothing else matters. Because it's like as people, you make eye contact with someone, and if you make eye contact with someone, it's like a much better connection. So if you can see someone's face, nothing else matters as much. You'll like instantly be more attracted to that, especially in portraiture work. So that's always like my main thing is as long as I can get that, then everything else is kind of like, okay, how can I make the rest of it cool? And like, using atmosphere and stuff always makes it just look cool. I'm always trying to make like a cool image. I'm not always trying to like make a statement with a photo. I feel like I have my own interpretations of my photos, but I like to leave it in like a little bit more ambiguous so that whoever is watching it or looking at it can make their own interpretation on it. And I feel like that opens it up to a lot more people versus it being like such a direct like explanation where it's like, oh, I don't really see how that is, but sure, like people that put like words in their photos. I hate that. I hate when there's like words because it's like now you're like trying to force something onto somebody else and they're like maybe they won't see it and now they're like, oh, I don't connect with it. But it was like ambiguous and they'll make their own personal connection with it and they'll like it more. And I feel like my work kind of does that where multiple people can look at the same photo and like get something else out of it because it's a little bit more open for that. It's open to interpretation.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I wanted to touch on is when did you start making the transition? Because I know it was all photo at the beginning, right? And like behind the scenes, but then you started doing some like VFX, like video type stuff. I know you started working a little bit with, what's his name? Lux City? Is that his name?
Christian?
Oh, Christian.
Yeah, Christian. Is that his like username? I don't know why that popped in my head.
That's like I think his like official.
All right, gotcha. Yeah, Christian
handle.
Yeah, but
like
yeah, I remember
TikTok.
I saw you doing like I think that's the first time I saw you do video. I'm not sure if I'm
that
right.
was the first.
Yeah, that was
video
like
you did.
cool because I've always known how to do video just because in my head it makes sense going from photo to video. In my head it just makes sense. So I always knew like the rules of like the 180 degree and like this and that.
I feel like a lot of photographers don't know that though.
I know. I for some reason it just made sense in my head. Like,
Did you have any video experience or any?
I like tried doing video back when I had my first camera, but it was like the 8-bit footage. So I like never did anything too crazy. But I like when I was learning my camera, I was like using both photo and video mode because I was like, I never know if I'll need to do video or not. So I was like, let me just learn both at once. So I taught myself both, and then obviously photo I just like liked way more, and it took less energy to do. So I was like, I'm gonna do that one instead. It's more efficient. But then when I started doing, so I knew how to do video, and then with video, it was kind of like, Christian was like, oh, like I want to do some content for like my new releases and stuff like that. I was like, sick. Like, he's like, do you know any video guys? I was like, I mean, I can do like a little bit of video. So we like did a few things together, and then I was like, oh wait, this is actually kind of fun. I want to do more of these. So then we did like a bunch of things, and then one day he was like, oh, like this idea is cool, but how can we make it even cooler? And in like 5th grade, I like pirated all the Adobe softwares because me and my friends would make videos of like us like shooting lasers out of eyes, and I was using like Windows Movie Maker, so it just looked so bad. I was like, let me find a better software. I like when I Google, I was like, what's the best like video software? Everyone's like After Effects. I was like, all right, let me find out how to download that for free because I had no money. So I downloaded After Effects and then like taught myself how to do like pretty basic VFX, but it was enough to like get those videos done. So like I knew how After Effects worked, and then now with like it's come a long way since 5th grade. Like all the tools and stuff, plugins and stuff you can download. I was like, oh, like, what if we just like set you on fire? He's like, how are we gonna do that? And I was like, oh, trust me. He like did not believe me whatsoever. And then it was like actually one video that we shot here, and then he was like, I'm trusting you. I don't know how it's gonna look, but I'm trusting you. And then like we shot it, and I did the VFX on it. He's like, oh, that looks like so sick.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was like. Oh, like this is like fun to do. I was like, I wonder what else I can do with like VFX. And I started like doing more stuff in After Effects again, and then I've just kind of been sprinkling VFX into my videos.
I mean, I remember seeing that video because it was shot here in our vintage like living room, and I was like, what the hell? I had no idea. Like all of a sudden, at first I didn't know you did video at all because I've only known you for the photos and stuff. But then I was like, you did this video and you did all this VFX, like all this like fire comps, and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like from there, like you started doing these like, I don't know what you call them, but like we have on the wall right here, like these portraits, and I feel like for sure in the music video, like when you did with like Christian and whatnot, like it definitely looked your style, but I feel like this is like, these have just like really honed in on like your photo style combined with video. It's almost like your photos are alive, you know? So like what has been kind of like, I mean, did you enjoy doing the video more? Like, did you get something more out of it, or is it just performing better, or why did you start pushing some video content out?
I've always, so with like the videos, every like photo shoot that I did ever since I got my A7S III, I would always like bring and get like little clips, and then just for like BTS and stuff like that. And I just had like a stockpile of just like footage where I was like, oh, this is like cool footage, but it's like only 10, 15 seconds, so I can't really do much with it. So I was like, how can I make these cool and like use them and like make them into something more than just like a clip that I'm going to put in front of like a bunch of photos, right? So I like started with, I think the like first one of like these type of videos that I did was it was actually, I don't know which one it was, but it was like it was a clip that I had, and I just like color graded it really like stylized, and didn't do well at all. But I was like, oh, this is like cool. And so I kept on doing that, and then once I started doing the VFX, I was like, oh, like maybe I can go back and re-edit them and like put some VFX in them. And then I kind of just really liked doing that process, and it was like more creatively fulfilling because I was like, I can spend a lot of time on one singular thing instead of like doing a bunch of photos and like not spending that much time on each photo. So for me, it was like I'm using a lot more of my brain to like make this, you know, something that I actually really, really, really like, instead of like, oh, this is like cool, and then sharing it. It was like, oh, I like really, really, really like this. So at the time, there's also, they would call them like video postcards were like a really big thing on Instagram, but it was just being people just like were like doing like a tripod shot with like a really cool color grade. I was like, that's cool, but I want to like make it a little bit more me. So I was like, what if I do like this type of style, but like with my look to it? So kind of like set up a photography scene almost, and then make it move, you know, kind of like a moving painting type of deal. So that's kind of what drew me to start making like these type of little clips. But yeah, I would call them kind of like,
Josh, could we pull up some of those clips?
I would call them more like, like video postcards. This one went crazy, dude.
This one is crazy.
This one.
Can we scale it down a bit, Josh?
I mean, so, all right, talk us through what is this? How is this guy glowing?
So this video actually was, these are just clips from like a longer video that I did. Sure, actually, they sent me like an anamorphic lens. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, that's my friend Mishko, and then that's my friend Willow. I like texted him like, yo, like I got this cool lens. You guys want to go and like just run around a field and just get footage with it? They're like, yeah, sure. So I made like this really like janky anamorphic and vertical setup at the same time, just so I could get both in case.
Two separate cameras? Or?
Yeah, I'd like rig them both on the same thing, so I could just shoot both at once in case I didn't like the anamorphic look. It wouldn't have been like a waste. So we like went and just shot a bunch of stuff, and I like shared it when it was like in March.
So is this the anamorphic that we're watching right now, or is this the vertical?
I think it might be a little bit of both from.
Yeah, the bokeh looks a little anamorphic, like when.
Yeah, I don't remember what it. Yeah, some of them might be from the anamorphic. The really, really shaky. Yeah, no, I think it's all anamorphic stuff because because it was like it was like shakier. But we like shot all this stuff, and then I just like I didn't do any of the cool effects. I just like color graded it, whatever, and made like a video review for it, and then kind of shelved it. And then like 6 months later is when I started doing like the video postcards. So I was like, oh, I have all this footage I like never used. I was like, this is cool. So I like made a new color grade, posted it, and then, you know, moved on to the next thing. And then I came back to this like 3 or 4 times with like different color grades. I was like, okay, I can only color grade this so many times before I can't really do much with it. So I was like, what can I do to make it look really, really, really cool? And then in my head, I'm like, oh, what if he was glowing? And I'm like, how can I make that happen? And then that was right actually when After Effects released Rotobrush 3.
Oh, yeah.
The new one that didn't suck.
Yeah.
Because the old one, like...
It was bad.
Unusable.
Even with good footage.
Unusable. And like with this, there's like texture everywhere. So it's like, if I would have done this on Rotobrush 2, now it would not have happened, right? So I started using Rotobrush 3, and it did pretty good. It like got most of it, but there was still a lot that had to go. So I essentially just had to like go in and do it frame by frame, which took a super long time. But because it was like good enough.
Did you test the initial effect before you just like committed to?
I did like a 1 second clip. I was like, let me just make sure it looks good before I like go and do all this roto. Yeah. And then I figured out how to like get a little bit of like detail back into the glow.
The shirt is so,
because people that try and copy this, they like skip this up and it just looks like a blob. Yeah. And I was like, when I was testing, I was like, this looks kind of ugly. I was like, I might give up on it. So I was like, how can I make it not look like a blob? And I found a way to do that. And then I like really liked that 1 second clip. So then I just did a bunch of different clips, and then that's how I ended up with this. And then I also really like the VHS look. I think it makes it just... Yeah.
It adds... I like that the grain overlays, like it adds texture into the glow. Exactly. So, because I think without any type of like texture or like, you know, film grain, it would have just been like just this white glowing source, and it would have not have looked good. I like the underglow too. Is that like color or is that like, you got some Ecto in there? Not Ecto. Saber. You got Saber?
No, that's all the glow stuff is all stock.
Oh, nice.
It's all stock plugins.
Sick.
But essentially, have you guys ever seen Watchmen? Like the
I think so.
With like Dr. Manhattan and stuff. What they did was they just did this, but they did like a 3D replace version of this. And they had the dude in like an actual light suit.
Yeah, they had like LEDs all over.
Yeah. So I actually got like the idea of making him glow from watching like a video, do you know Corridor Digital? Yeah. They did like a breakdown of how they did Dr. Manhattan.
Gotcha.
And they like showed BTS, and he was like in a light suit and stuff. And then they just did a full 3D replacement of him. And I was like, well, there's no way I can do that. Yeah. So I was like, how can I do that on my budget, which is zero? So that's how I did the roto, and then I wanted it to make it glow, but. In my head, I was like, oh, it would look cool if like the atmosphere was going to, but it also kind of adds that it's not, because it's kind of like, oh, now it's...
Yeah, it's more like
now it's
spiritual.
More yeah. So now it's kind of like, oh, are they actually there or not? You know, type deal. But cool. So...
and I feel like it's open. I like that it's open up to interpretation.
Exactly,
you know, like
exactly.
Hey, real quick. Didn't know if you knew this, but CinePacks actually has 3 studio locations in Los Angeles. If you're a filmmaker, photographer, and you're looking for a studio space, look no further. CinePacks is here. We have one location in South LA that has multiple music video sets, has a small LED wall. We have an entire vintage house in East Hollywood. We have a large LED wall studio in North Hollywood as well, with tons of standing sets. You can check out the studios at cinepackstudios.com or check us out on Instagram at cinepackstudios. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Can we see the next clip, Joshua?
That one went so viral.
Wow. Oh, this is crazy.
This is crazy.
And then, this one too. This was a ton of rotoscope. So every single one of the people walking is an individual layer. Because I didn't like the way that like these ones on the sides, they were like not going the way that I wanted them to go. So I had to like go in and like make each one different.
Is this all the same person, or is it multiple people?
Yeah, that's all him. It's all.
Is all
them.
Him?
It's all them. Yeah, they're all. We recorded them in the middle, and then we recorded them they had like a gimp suit. Okay. And they're like, oh, I was like, do you have an outfit that's like black? And they're like, yeah, we have. I have a black gimp suit. I was like. Wait, what do you mean?
Sick.
And they're like, it like covers everything. I was like, what do you mean? And so it literally, they couldn't see.
Oh my God.
They were like blind. So I had to be like, walk, stop. And then they like stopped because there was like a wall. So they were doing that all just blind. And
that's crazy.
They essentially I made them do all the little routes. And then comped all of them individually. So I went in and just...
Did you do any keyframing?
That's all roto.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of roto. Yeah. And I shot on like a black backdrop, so you can kind of, it hides a little bit of where the,
get away with some stuff.
Yeah, you can get a little bit away with it. But yeah, each one of those is all just roto. And then I did like a little bit of keyframing on like the sides and in the back. But,
Gotcha. Was there any type of like idea behind this? Why, or like any type of theme or something behind this shot, or?
Yeah, this is one of those things. I like heard a song and I was like, I forgot what song it was. It's by Andrew Garden, and I can hear it in my head, but I forgot what the name of it. It says one of the Andrew Garden songs. And I heard it. I was like, oh, this is giving me like a existential type of feel. I was like, I want to make something like existential. So I feel like this is very much so existential.
Looks like he's fighting demons.
Yeah, it's kind of like something. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, let's just get together and shoot something. I was like, it might not look cool, so
definitely
we'll kind of figure it out if it doesn't look cool.
Was this the same day as the other shoot, or it's completely different?
This was a different day. Yeah,
Okay.
this was a different
That
day.
looks like it's the same shirt, maybe.
We drew inspiration from the other day. I was
okay.
like, they were like, what do I bring? I was like, oh, remember what you brought last time?
Yeah.
I was like, bring that and then bring like a black suit. And they're like, oh, it was a gimp suit. I was like, yeah, bring that. Bring the gimp suit.
No,
They're like,
No
pull-
questions like that.
That'll
I don't know
do.
why you have it, but
We got the next clip.
that's fine.
I think we have, how many more clips we got?
Oh, so this is also kind of similar with the glowing.
Yeah, so that's
Nice
actually
as well.
Christian. Yeah, this was like for one of his songs, and then
The sparks
it was
are
just
sick.
footage that I had. And this one was different because this one like was a lot more touching, whereas the other ones there wasn't as much touching. So the roto on some of it is a little rough, but I was like, it's for Instagram. I don't really care.
That's sick.
But yeah, and then this is kind of just also gen fill on like the outer edges
Oh.
because I shot this vertical. This is all vertical footage.
And this was meant for like, was it for him at all, or is it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So this was for it was for one of his songs when we were
Okay.
doing like promo for it, and we didn't really have like any continuity for that song. So it was just like we had an idea, we would shoot it and then throw the song over it. But this is like one of my more favorite sets that we made. We rented like a black cyc wall and they just like a full Dollar Tree's worth of fake flowers,
Yeah.
and they just filled it with fake flowers. And I was like,
I noticed the flowers is like a kind of motif for a lot of like stuff that you've done.
it's just because I have so many fake
You
flowers.
just have like your house is just full.
Dude, I was
of
just
boxes
I
of them.
don't want to throw them away. I'm like,
They're expensive.
I was like, they're
Yeah.
fake flowers. So I was like, whatever. If
Yeah.
I ever need fake flowers, I just got a bunch of fake flowers.
Yeah.
I mean, it adds a lot of production value. You know,
It adds
like,
texture really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the colors and stuff is really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I like.
But I
look
like
of
this scene because it's like you can't. It goes into black, so you can't really tell how far it goes.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so it looks like they might be
them.
you know,
Yeah.
in
Well,
the
the
garden at night. Or
the guy
something.
who owns this cyc wall, it's usually white, and they painted it black for like a music video, and they like shared it. I was like, oh, let me rent that right now. They're like, oh, we're painting it white again tomorrow. I was like,
I need it.
then I'm coming today, and they're like, all right, come, but we're painting it back tomorrow, so you gotta be quick.
Yeah.
I was like, I only need a few hours.
We go to the next one. Is that the last one? All right, cool. Sick. All right.
And then, so how do you like keep your like? Do you ever have like? I know like writers have like writer's block, or like you kind of get stuck with like creativity and stuff. Do you have any issues with that, or do you always?
I feel like for me at least, since I started with like nothing, like very little resources, I've always had to be crafty with what how I get the image I want. So now that I have access to a lot of things, I haven't really run into that problem where I'm like, oh, I have this idea, but I don't know how to do it. Like I have access to really good lighting. I have access to I know a bunch of people now that are like down to come and like do stuff just like for fun. I have access to if I want to come like do a shoot here and stuff, you guys are always like cool with me just coming. So it's like if I have like an idea and I just want to do it, I usually can like just do it. There's very few things where I'm like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't have the resources to, and I don't know how. Just because when I first started, I was like, all right, I'm gonna make it happen. I don't know how, but I'm gonna make it happen. So with creative block, I feel like once you like exhaust all your resources and exhaust all it, that's kind of when like the creative block really, really hits. And like with the studio that I have now it's not like a huge studio, so I've again just been limited with the size of it. So it's like if I can get work done in that smaller space, any space that's bigger than that, it just opens up creativity. And also just like knowing VFX, if I can expand the space if I want, I can do all this extra stuff. So it's like I've picked up little things as I want, as I've gone to like make the image that I want to get possible. Like this is like a shot in my small space, but
It's crazy. It looks huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
with-
I feel like you're on a mountain.
yeah, but with VFX, you know, you can do a lot.
So the sky you added in.
Sky's
in
VFX.
post,
I
yeah.
extended the flowers. Really, the only part of it that was like is real is like the center part, and then
Yeah.
like the lighting
It's
and
crazy.
stuff. But yeah,
Oh, there was just a little bit of flowers. You're saying.
there was flowers probably to like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's like a little mound, kind of like halfway down the mound, I'd say,
Okay.
where like the fog kind of rolls in. That's kind of where the cutoff is. But with the Gen Fill, it like makes it so seamless. You like don't really can't really see. But yeah.
Oh, I can tell. I can see because then the.
He's like, oh, I
you
see
get-
action.
no, well, now you mention it, like the light rays and the shadow.
Yeah,
Her shadow
yeah.
hits the real flowers,
Yeah.
but it doesn't affect the
Yeah.
flowers.
So there's like little things hidden in there where it's like, if
it
you're looking
still
for
works.
it,
Like, yeah, if you're looking for it, now that you mention it,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, I know where the line is. Like,
yeah.
I can see.
You're like, I see it. I see the feathering on there.
the AI.
It's great. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
Do you have any like challenge like experiences with any like difficult like really difficult shoots or like anything that you had any issues with or like crazy experiences on set like this?
As far as like, so with Christian, we tried doing some like longer form like music videos, but we didn't really have much budget. So for those, it was kind of like, okay, we have this really big idea, no resources.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make him like fly, and we wanted to like do all this other stuff, and we're like, yo, you're like, we don't know how to do that. I was like, and then we like drove like 12 hours to this one specific location because he's like, no, it has to be shot here. So we had to like plan how where we were gonna shoot and all this stuff, and it was like a huge like mess. And then we ended up just green screen everything anyway.
Oh,
So I was
yeah.
like, bro, we wasted like 2 full days of driving and just never used any of that footage. And then we just reshot a bunch of the stuff here in LA. I was like, we could have just done this here in the beginning. But it ended up turning out really cool, and it was like so low budget. Like we essentially did it for nothing. We just paid like people to come help, and then it ended up being cooler than we originally thought. So, but it was like during the process, I'm like, this is gonna look so bad. I'm like, no, this is gonna look so bad, and it was just like challenge after challenge after challenge, because it was like, okay, we can go shoot here, but it's gonna take up like this much of the budget, and we're like, we can't really spend that. And I was like, all right, I guess we're cutting this or we're cutting that, or now we can't bring on like extra people to come help out, you know, if we're like set on this location. Or with like the timeline and stuff, like the VFX, we did like the first pass, and like he didn't like a lot of the stuff originally, so I was like, oh, that's all I was planning for. I was like, I don't know what else you want to add. I was like, all right, guess I'll go and like think about how to make this different. So we did like 2 or 3 different versions of it, and then eventually at the last one he's like, wait, that's like perfect. I was like, thank you, because I did not know what else I was gonna do if you didn't like it. So it was just like things like that where it's kind of like you originally planned for something and then that goes wrong, and then you're kind of like, all right, here's what we have left, so let's scrape together something and hopefully it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Been a couple of those, but luckily nothing too crazy on set. Yeah.
Is that something you want to do more of, like music videos and stuff?
See, I've like worked, I just did a few, like 2 this past month, and not gonna lie, not really. Not gonna lie. Like, if I don't have to, because the thing about like music videos is like they take so much more time and prep work and stuff. You guys know, you guys do video. I don't know if you guys do music videos, but like just video in general takes so much more prep work, and it's like at the end of it, you know, unless you absolutely love the project, you're not really gonna be able to put your all into it. And for photo, I can get away with not like absolutely loving it because it's like a lot easier to like make
edit
and stuff like that. But with video, it's kind of like, all right, you have like a concept, you kind of shoot for that concept. There's no like wiggle room there. And again, if you like don't love it, it kind of feels like a job. And my thing has always been like, I've never felt like I had a job doing photography, because I love doing photography, and even if I don't love like the concept of it, just the act of doing it, I really love. But with the last few music videos I've worked on, it's kind of like drained me a little to the point where I'm like, like sure I got paid for it, sure it was like decent money, but it's also like it felt like a job. It felt like I had to like answer to higher ups, aka like producers being like, oh, we actually want this instead. I'm like,
just all the notes and the revisions.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, I don't really like that. It takes the fun out of it for me. So we'll see if I do more music videos. I guess it would only be like people that I really like, but even then it's like I don't idolize anyone, so like even if it was like my favorite artist, I wouldn't be like, I would love to do a music video for you. It would kind of be, it would kind of be like, okay, like sure, I'll doing, but only if I like love the concept, not like because you're like this person, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, music videos are, I don't know, not really. I don't know how much I like doing them. I don't know how many I'll continue to do, but.
What can we look? Is there anything that we should be looking forward to from Moody Dark Room? Anything that you are working on that you are excited about?
So the most recent things I worked on were NDAs. So unfortunately, unfortunately can't say, but
Nice.
I'll like share it and stuff when it comes out.
Okay.
If
Cool.
it doesn't get ruined in the edit.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sick.
And then so video stuff that like, is that but just music videos, but like regular video stuff? You're still like this type of stuff you still want to do for yourself?
Yeah. See, if it's like a personal project, then I put so much more time and effort into it, and like, because I know exactly what the final thing will be, and I have like full creative control. If music videos gave me full creative control, like no notes and stuff, I would be like cranking out, this, but like music video form. That's not the case, though, right? But stuff like this, I definitely enjoy doing it a lot more, and I definitely want to get into like making like short narrative work and like actual scripts and stuff, and like meeting more and more people that are, do different things in the industry, like whether they like script write or whether they like, they like gaff or whether they do like DP work and stuff like that. I feel like I could put together like a little group and we could do something for fun and like submit it to like film festivals and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that I want to try doing and like going down that, more narrative driven stuff.
I mean, I feel like I would love to see that kind of stuff from you because you have such a distinct style, like seeing that in a narrative format with like a storyline and like actors and I think that'd be really cool.
And then it's also just like a new medium too. And I feel like every time I try a new thing, I'm like putting all of my attention, like 110% into like learning how everything works, like what I need to do, like how can I make this the best version that I can, given the resources and whatnot. And then because it's a new medium, it's just like, it'll be like fresh. It'll feel fresh,
Yeah.
So I definitely want to try that eventually. Maybe like the next year or two, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Sick. Do you have any like advice for people that want to do what you're doing right now? Like if people just starting out and stuff?
Yeah, I would say networking with people has been the number one thing I can like recommend to anyone. And it is tough a little bit when you're like a new kid on the block. Like, I don't know, everyone has like ego, so they're always like, oh, you're not cool enough to come work with us and stuff. But it's like, you can always just reach out to people within like your community and like just start being like more open to collaborating with others as you like come up. Because when I first started doing photography, I would like reach out to somebody like, oh, like you want to like shoot for like do like a collaborative shoot? No reply.
Like this is like models and stuff.
Yeah, like models or like other photographers in the area where I was living that like had like much higher following than I did, and no reply. So it's kind of like I've always been super like if people reach out, like I'm always trying to like I'll always throw up on my story like, oh, like who's free to come shoot at like once every couple months. And I'll just like scroll and like click a random person and then just like DM them and be like, hey, like I saw you reply, like, are you free these days or whatever. Don't look at like anything else. It's like, if you want to like shoot and like want to do stuff, like I'd love to. So it's always like trying to reach out and like work with people, like and be like, I hired someone for BTS on like one of the music videos I worked on. And since then, like I brought him on to like 4 or 5 other shoots. Nice. And he's like one of the best BTS people I've ever like worked with. I'm like, oh yeah, like, and he's like, he's like, oh, like I've always wanted to do this, but like never really like had the chance to. And I was like, oh, well, I do. I was like, now I'll bring you on to literally every single shoot just because like your stuff is like, I like the way you do BTS. I like this and that. And it's like, if he didn't reach out and be like, hey, and like reply to that sort of like, it wouldn't have happened. So it's always like trying to network with people, trying to like find other people that have the same interests in mind. Like if you're doing photography, reach out to other photographers, reach out to like models in your area. If you're trying to do like video, same thing. If you're trying to do like music videos and stuff, try and get on set. Like when I started trying to do music videos, I have friends that do a bunch of music videos. So I was like, oh, like just bring me on to like set, I'll like help out or whatever. And then we'll just kind of go from there. So it's always like get around the network that you want to be in, and then like those opportunities will come, even if the following and stuff really isn't there. Just because like the following is more of like, for me at least, it like helps a little bit, but it's also just like, yeah, You know,
Yeah.
it only helps so much.
Yeah.
People think like, oh, you have like a big following, like it must be so easy. It's like it only does so much. Like if you're like a shitty person and have like a huge following, no one's gonna want to work with you.
Yeah, that's
So
like definitely true.
you have to be like a good person still, and then I feel like a lot of people, once they get a bigger following, they become, you know, not as nice to like as many people. So
yeah. I also like what you were saying though, working with limitations and not letting that hold you back, and just because I think that's honestly like one of the biggest, especially even like when you do have all the gear, you're still gonna have limitations, and you're still gonna have to be able to, you know, be adaptive and being able to do that.
I think just getting started is like the best thing you can do, because you can learn as you go, and a lot of people, I feel like, will try to learn everything at once and then start, but it's like you're always gonna need to learn more. So if you just start where you are and just learn as you go, you're gonna get a lot farther than the guy who like tries to like read every book and like watch every movie.
That
and
slows
then
you down too, because then you're like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, and then it's just like you're never gonna start.
Exactly.
You're just gonna be like, oh fuck.
You gotta have blind confidence.
You kind of just have to.
You gotta just have blind confidence and just think you know everything.
Yeah.
But like not in like a bad way.
And I like the example you gave of like just posting every day and just putting it out there, because that's just like repetitious, and it helps. And then
delete it
later. Yeah, go
go
archive all the shitty shit, because like there's even, I'm sure you have some work that you look back and you're like, damn, like I created that. That was pretty good for like the time, you know. So I feel like we all have work like that, and then we also have work that we're ashamed of and we want to just hide away. So
or like at the time you're like, this is so cool, and then you go back and you're like, that wasn't so cool.
Wasn't that cool?
But doing it like just doing all that repetition helps you like build your craft so much better than, you know, trying to watch all the you can only watch tutorials so much before it actually starts to help you, you know. Like doing it and like learning that way, I feel like is going to teach you things so much quicker than like watching
watch a tutorial, and like I feel like you don't really retain the information until you're actually hands on. Like same thing with like school. I feel like film school, like you take classes and stuff, and I feel like you don't really, because I went to community college. I took a ton of classes on like everything from like CG, like VFX stuff to like cinematography and everything. I feel like I didn't really learn things until I started working on set and actually doing stuff hands-on. So it's
like muscle memory too. Like if you get your hands on a camera and you learn all the buttons and stuff, now you're not sitting there like
just like memorizing like settings and stuff. Like that's not gonna do anything.
Like you can now get handed any camera and be like, all right, what dial does this, and now I can work with this camera too. Whereas if you like only learn one specific system, I've known people that like they only shoot on one system. You know how Sony used to have like the really bad menu systems? And they would hold my camera and they're like, wait, I don't know how to do any of this, but it's like because they didn't really know like the names of the things. They just kind of learned their own camera and that was it. So they didn't know like what to look for in the menus to change like certain settings. Whereas if you like learn those like actual just like the words for it, you can go and like do that on every single camera now, you know, instead of just being like, oh, I know this camera, but I don't know this camera, you know. And that comes from just like doing it. Muscle memory.
Just gotta do it.
Just gotta do it.
Just do it.
Cool. Is there anything you want to plug? I mean, I feel like a lot of people follow you already, but Moody Dark Room is your Instagram. Is there anything? Do you have a website as well?
It's just like a portfolio website. I mean, I don't really keep up to date. If you want my presets, they're on there.
Get the presets.
Hook up. Yeah, Get some
I am actually going to be releasing a new preset. I mean, the last preset pack I released was in like 2021, so I like, don't even edit like that anymore. Nice. I've been working on a preset pack for a while now, and I'm going to probably release that in the next like few months or so.
All right, it might be
I don't know when
this will be in like July, so
it'll be a while.
All right, look out for that Moody Dark Room preset part 2 this summer.
There you go.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Sick.